Hey everyone, I'm Jordan with 9 to 5 Toys, and today we're checking out the GTRacer sim racing cockpit from Next Level Racing. As more direct drive wheelbases become available, the need for more affordable or budget sim racing cockpits that can support those wheelbases is becoming bigger as well. And Next Level Racing, who provides everything from the Wheel Stand 2.0, which we also reviewed, check out up here in their corner if you want to see that review, all the way up to, huge, robust sim racing cockpits as well. This is their latest offering, and it's coming in at just $400, is able to support direct drive wheelbases up to 13 Newton meters of torque, also comes with a shifter and handbrake mount, and a place to mount a butt kicker, all built in part of the main package here. Beyond that, it has some quick adjustments with the seat here, and some other really nice features. So let's dive in and take a closer look at this $400 sim racing cockpit. So if you've been around the channel for a little while, then you probably know that I've been using the Playseat Trophy Logitech G Edition for the last little while. That's the latest cockpit I had. So throughout this review, we will be comparing it to that quite a bit, but I'll also be talking about some more affordable offerings from Next Level Racing, mainly their GT Lite. And we are also using the Next Level Racing monitor stand as well. I believe this is their monitor stand Lite. It works great with the Dark Matter 49-inch 1440 monitor that we are using here. And I will link all that stuff down in the description if you want to see, all the details about our sim rig setup. So once again, priced at just $400, the GTRacer has been designed to be able to support, entry level and also mid-range direct drive wheelbases, everything up to 13 Newton meters of torque. I actually have the Moza R16 mounted on this, so this goes up to 16 Newton meters of torque, and it's worked very well on this cockpit. Additionally, we already showed it has the quick adjustable seat, which is something that the Playseat Trophy really lacks. Any sort of quick adjustment to kind of change it up if a driver of different height is going to be stepping in here. And what's more, it also has a reclining seat back, so you can adjust that as well. So kind of the more quick adjustments you would expect in a real car. Another big thing to mention here in the mobility aspect of it, the Playseat Trophy is meant to be very lightweight. It's easy to drag around a room because the bottoms are nice and smooth. People can, put it out of the way, put it in a corner. You can even hang it up on the wall. And then there's also the GT Lite from Next Level Racing, which is a foldable cockpit. So if you need to fold it down and get it out of the way, put it in a closet, put it in the corner, that's meant to be very mobile and easy to do. The GTRacer, on the other hand, the cockpit itself weighs 70 pounds, and it's a little bit more cumbersome to move around. It will not fold easily. So this is more of a, set it, get it set up, and just leave it. You're not going to be moving it around very much. So if that is something that you plan on doing often, then you might want to look for something else. But if you plan on just having this set up in a location, the GTRacer has a ton of features for that $400 price point. Included in that $400 price point is a shifter and handbrake mount. There is an extra adapter plate if you need to mount a handbrake. We have the Logitech shifter and we have the Moza handbrake mounted on here. And this is just an arm that connects to the main frame here. And then additionally, it has that pole that is mounted underneath the seat for mounting a butt kicker if you want a little bit more haptic feedback. That's something that I did have rigged up on the Playseat Trophy. I ended up just clamping it to kind of like the back right side of the frame, which made kind of the vibrations just on one side. It's not the ideal placement. So having something that's actually thought out and integrated into the design of this, has it right in the middle, right underneath your seat, that's a really nice feature of the GTRacer if you want to get some haptic feedback in there. All right, so as far as getting this out of the box and set up, once again, the package is at least 70 pounds because that's how much the cockpit weighs by itself. And setup is pretty involved. There are quite a few bolts and nuts and washers you have to install. I don't think it took me more than an hour, but it's not going to be like a get it out of the box and have it ready to go right away kind of situation. There is a decent amount of assembly required here. And throughout that assembly, you are kind of setting up some of the different adjustments. Like these arms here, wherever you place them, you can move them forward or back. That is also, they have some recommendations in the manual about where you should put that depending on your height. That also dictates, kind of the locations where you can put the wheel deck up here as well, the wheel mount. So while you are assembling it, there are a few different things there that kind of play into the overall adjustment and comfort depending on your size. So after I had everything set up and used it for a little bit, I realized it wasn't quite where I wanted it, so I made a few adjustments, and some of those adjustments can take longer to make than others. Now, some really nice things about getting this set up is that Next Level Racing has put a ton of different mounting options for different wheelbases. They even have a little schematic in the manual that shows you, what kinds of setups you would have for different wheelbases, and also with the pedal deck. So there is a really nice variety of mounting points on here. On the Playseat Trophy, I was limited with what I could do with Moza gear. It was great for the Logitech because that was what it was designed for, but when it came to installing some Moza gear on the Playseat Trophy, I could only really get 2 bolts into the wheel on the wheel deck. Move over to the Next Level Racing. There are plenty of different mounting points on this for lots of different brands, lots of different models. Same with the pedal deck. Things felt pretty limited on the Playseat Trophy, but there are a lot more options for mounting on the Next Level Racing GTRacer. And those schematics help you to make sure you're mounting them in the right place and kind of plan ahead to get them mounted in here. So the wheel deck offers some height adjustability, which the Playseat Trophy doesn't offer any, so any kind of height adjustability is great to see on the GTRacer. But that being said, there isn't quite as much tilting, or it's a little bit harder to do because there are just a couple bolts and it feels like you can kind of just go in big increments. You can't really fine tune it like you could adjust the tilt on the Playseat Trophy very easily. So some differences there. Ultimately, I found, a really comfortable wheel position here that I like on the GTRacer, so there aren't any issues there for me. I'm about 6'1", and you can kind of see how I have it set up here. Everything works here. I think I did actually put this back a little bit further than I usually use it. Something right here is usually pretty comfortable for me. Making adjustments as far as the wheel height and the wheel tilt is pretty involved because there are 4 bolts that hold the wheel deck mounting plate on here in this metal cage, and so getting in there and loosening those bolts and nuts in this metal cage can be a little bit tight trying to get in there. So you can make adjustments. It's kind of involved doing that, but it's nice to have the adjustability in there. That's where kind of like the budget nature comes into this. I'm sure they had to keep it at, a certain price point and make some compromises because of that. So like I mentioned, we've been using the Moza R16 V2 that we recently reviewed. Check that out up in the corner if you want to see that. And although it's technically over the recommended torque power limit, this is working totally fine. It's been great. I rarely see flex in normal use on this. You can notice some flex because of the design, like if you pull up on the wheel, if you pull back, you can kind of feel the bottom tubes, the way it's designed, kind of pulling back a little bit. But, because the way this is, anything that would be going forward would be going into the ground. It's felt very solid. I very rarely see any flex in it. One thing that does have a little bit more flex to it than like on the Playseat Trophy is the shifter and handbrake mount. I mean, it's this arm going into this mounting bracket right here, where even on the Playseat Trophy, where I had my 3D printed shifter mount because it was just hard mounted to the main frame, it felt really rigid. And so there is just a little bit more play in here. You can see when I'm using the shifter that the handbrake kind of bounces around a little bit. You can also see when I activate the handbrake that the whole thing kind of tilts back a little bit. So, not a super high-end premium rigid experience with the shifter and handbrake, but once again, that's included for the $400 price point, and it does work. It's fine. There is some adjustability there, but maybe not quite as rigid as a higher end cockpit. Another thing to note here, to get the Logitech shifter, mounted exactly where I wanted it, it's pretty near the back, and because there is a desk clamp on there, the little desk clamp feet would kind of rattle, so I had to find a piece of cardboard and tighten these down in here so that the shifter wouldn't rattle continuously. So that worked for me, but obviously it has a bunch of different mounting points on top here for other better higher end shifters as well. And while there is, quick, easy adjustability with the seat, which you can pull pretty far forward, this is all the way forward, and that's all the way back. There I feel like I can barely reach the pedals, whereas all the way up here, I feel like my feet are in the dash. So a nice, variety of sizes and positions there. That's nice to have this quick adjustability. There isn't much adjustability with the pedal deck. That's something like on the Playseat Trophy, there was a lot more adjustability on the pedals than there was on the seat. So depending on what you need it for, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. You know, this is basically, it's called GTRacer, so set up for more GT style racing. So you aren't going to have the pedals, you know, really high like you would in a Formula car. They're a little bit lower to the ground there, and kind of what you see is what you get with that. Now, there would be some adjustability with different pedal sets with all the different mounting points on the pedals, but then you have to unmount them, move them, you know, retighten them. And so it's a little bit more involved than like the Playseat Trophy. Moving on to comfort, overall, it's been a comfortable, very comfortable cockpit. You know, it kind of has the bucket seat kind of design where the sides will kind of hold you in place. It has these wings in the back, and at 6'1" with, I don't know, relatively broad shoulders, they're not huge. I do wish that these wings were either just a little bit wider or pulled back a little bit more, like they were on the Playseat Trophy. You know, trying to fully put my back against here, it does feel like the shoulders are getting kind of crunched in a little bit because of the wings and the design of the seat. Now, once again, like, I've been using this quite a bit on our live streams, which, you know, subscribe and hit the bell icon if you want to know when we're going live. Those have been weekly, Wednesday nights is what we've been doing with them. But I've been using this cockpit, you know, ever since I got it set up a few weeks ago and haven't had issues with it for longer sessions. So it's not a deal breaker, but, you know, in an ideal world, I wish that would be a little bit wider. That's something like on the Playseat Trophy, those wings are a little bit wider, and I didn't have that issue in that seat. One thing that I really appreciate about the GTRacer is that because of this design, it's very easy to get in and out of. You can just, you know, walk out the side basically, which on the Playseat Trophy, because it's much lower and there are the arms right here, you got to kind of find a way to kind of pry yourself out. And so that's a little bit harder to get in and out of. GTRacer is much easier. So if you are swapping drivers quite frequently, that is a big selling point for the GTRacer. One other small issue that I want to mention with the seat, you know, I talked about the wings maybe being a little bit too narrow for my shoulders. It also feels like the right side is kind of pulled back a little bit. And it's not a huge amount, but it kind of feels like it's pulled back a little bit. And, you know, sometimes I notice it, sometimes I don't. When I am actually racing, it's not that big of a deal. When I actually stand up and compare the seat back to like the bottom frame rail back here, it also looks like it's pulled back a little bit. So I've tried loosening a couple different things and kind of tweaking it to see if I can even that out, and nothing is really stuck. It always kind of goes back to this position. So I reached out to Next Level Racing to see if there is some sort of adjustment I can do to fix that or remedy that, and I haven't heard back yet. So if I do hear anything, I will update you and let you know down in the comments or in a future review in one of our live streams. But that is the current situation. It feels like it's not quite square. It feels like the seat back on the right side is just pulled back just a little bit. But even with that, overall at just $400 for everything you're getting here, you know, a cockpit that has very quick seat adjustability for both forward and backward and recline. It has a shifter and handbrake mount. It can support, you know, on paper up to 13 Newton meters, but I've been using it just fine with 16 Newton meters of torque. This, I think, is an incredible deal. It, of course, has its own pros and cons versus something like the Playseat Trophy or the GT Lite from Next Level Racing. But if you need something that has quick adjustments, it has the shifter mount, it can support, you know, a higher power direct drive wheelbase. This is definitely worth a close look because it is just $400. You know, thinking about the Playseat Trophy, comes in at $600 for the Logitech G Edition, or I think any edition is about $600, and that doesn't even include the shifter mount. You have to pay another, it's at least $50 for the mount itself, and then depending on where it's getting shipped from, it could go up to $150 total for getting that. So to get the same set of, you know, functionality and accessories and mounting options, the Playseat Trophy would actually be like $700 or $750 with a shifter mount. So at just $400 for this, I do think that this is a pretty incredible deal. Now, it has its own set of quirks. You know, I'd love to see some easier adjustment in the wheelbase, some easier adjustment on the pedals, but if, you know, if being able to quickly adjust the seat for different drivers is something that's really important to you, This is just an incredible offering for that price point. So of course we will have links down in the description if you want to check things out. I believe we have a referral coupon code as well if you want to save a little bit of money. So check those out and pick this up. If you're interested in the Playseat Trophy, check out that review up here in the corner. I will also link it down in the description so you can hear a little bit more about some of the different offerings. And if you want to see me using this live, join in on our live streams, usually Wednesday nights. Make sure you are subscribed, hit that bell icon to get notification when we are going live. Also stay locked to our community page on YouTube and follow us on X or Twitter, and we'll be posting whenever we're going to be doing some live sim racing. But that'll do it for this review of the GTRacer from Next Level Racing. Let us know what you think about it down in the comments below. And if you're looking for some other videos to watch, I will link to our Playseat Trophy review as well as our most recent video. And thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up so others can find it easier, and consider subscribing. This is Jordan with 9to5 Toys.